Hey gang, it's Tim. How are you? So I've been talking to a lot of people recently about closing sales. And beyond the fact that everybody's in a real rush to close them, and that actually makes it harder to close because the harder you press, the more likely you are to run into resistance. I wanted to talk about the way to actually run a sales call sort of just in general. It doesn't really matter what you're selling, but this works really well with agencies. So number one, you have to set control. So you make rapport a little bit. Hey, how are you? Really short. And then you take control. You say, this is how the call is going to go. This is what we're going to do. You're going to talk. I'm going to talk. We'll see if there's a fit, and then we'll do next steps. Number two is you start asking your prospect questions. You want to draw out from them what problems that they are going to have. On the call, you're taking notes. You're writing down what the issues are. You're actively mapping in your mind what your solutions are to what their issues are so that you can create a parallel. And when the prospect is done talking about their issues, then you move into, yeah, we can solve that. We have a program, we have a campaign, we have whatever, and you explain your process. And ideally, you have a specific process that you go through. So you can say something like, we do discovery, we do testing, we do optimization, then we do scale. And so you sort of walk them through your process that brings them from their point of pain to a point where the future is better. So you're sort of helping them cross the trough of difficulty from their current state to a future state where things are better, using a process that only applies to you or comes from you. And then, once you're done with that, you just shut the F up. You don't talk about how much it costs or about when you're going to get started or about budget or anything else. You just stop. Because when you stop, you are then putting the pressure on the other side to say something. And so if you've just said, here's how we can solve it for you, step 1, 2, 3, 4, how does that sound? And then you stop, your prospect is going to have to respond with, that sounds good, that sounds bad, tell me more. So at that point, they're either throwing out some objections or they're consenting to the next steps. And then at this point, you go into your first close. Or your first real close. You've done a bunch of trial closes throughout the process. But then at some point, you say something like, what would your business look like, or what would your profitability look like, or some sort of metric look like if this problem that we just talked about is solved? When that happens, when they tell you, then you have a sense of scale. So then you know if you're selling a $100,000 solution or a $2,000 solution. Because if you start running with your solution, A through Z, here's everything that we do, and it's $75,000, but your customer is describing a $2,000 problem, you're not going to close the sale, and you've wasted the opportunity to close that small sale because you weren't patient enough to get the sense of scale from them. Now, they may be wrong about the value of the scale value, right? They might think it's a little problem, but you know it's a big problem. And then you can sort of parse around and dig around and make sure that they understand what you understand. But when you get to the point where you have described your solution, you need to, for your prospect, to apply the scale. Because when they say the scale is big enough, it doesn't really matter what you're going to say next, because if they have just talked about how this is crushing their business or killing their productivity or it's making their numbers impossible to hit, frankly, the value of your solution is significantly, the value of your solution goes up as long as you have created the trust that you will be able to solve their problem. So, control, discovery, solution, shut up, scale, And then you're either closing, if you've got a simple thing, or if you've got a discrete thing or a short thing, you can close right then and say, great, that's awesome, let's get the contract done, let's go. Or if you need to, if there's multiple decision makers, or if whatever, or if they're a company that values a proposal-driven process, you can say, okay, I'm going to send you a proposal that has the things we talked about it today, and you're going to run through it. You're going to plop in the pricing. At that point, you're going to say it out loud, and they're going to agree to it because you have just matched your deliverable and your pricing to their pain, and then you send it to them, and you close the deal. Really simple. Control, discovery, solution, shut up, close. Every time. Have a great day.